What is up, Scrub Fam? I am back after a very long time with a DBS video. I'm going to be over two decks that I've been playing the absolute most lately, two decks that I've been fine-tuning, learning how to pilot to try and be an expert, and also take advantage of different spots in the format. The first deck that I'm going to be going over, of course, is going to be a build of the Ultimate Deck Cell. Leader is very popular, the deck is very strong, a lot of people already know about all the different parts. I have a few card choices that are going to be different than most, and then I will go ahead and explain the reasonings for that. Additionally, I will be going over a second deck, which I am trying to use to exploit a certain spot in the metagame right now. Additionally, decks that just won major events like Bulma and whatnot, I definitely felt like this deck was pretty well positioned against them, and so I'll be going over that too. But of course, in general, thanks for checking out the video. It's been a really long time. Hopefully I can still get through this and make some decent content. I don't know if this would be an all the time kind of thing, but as DBS ramps back up, as we get into regional season, Gen Con's coming up, I would like to try and make a couple of videos outside of the stuff that I'm doing for my own game that I'm currently working on and promoting, which is the Runes of Eden expandable card game. If you get a chance, check out the videos, check out the Facebook, continue to make more content for that as well. But let's dive straight into the deck itself. So, Ultimate Lifeform Cell, very strong leader on the front side. Of course, the reboot where you get to tuck a card, then destroy something 3 or less, and then draw a card. And then when you have 3 or more cards under the card, you can draw one card, switch one of your energy active mode, and then take your life down to 5. This plays into a big reason of why I'm playing 4 homicidal clones in the main as opposed to just 3 or even less. You really want to see that first homicidal clones, because if you're going play if you're on the play, you awaken on turn 2 and you have the optimal turn, having a clones on your opponent's turn basically stops them dead in their tracks. And of course, the more copies of clones you have throughout the course of the game means you're going to be able to do it a lot more often than not, especially when you combine that with your cell 8 drops and things like that. So I wanted to make sure I played 4 copies of that. The backside, of course, really strong. Plays up to 1 Android card under this card when you attack, and then you draw 2 cards, and then activate main, place 2 cards from this card in your drop area, and then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, KO it. This card gets plus 5k and critical for the turn. This is actually, probably the best part about the leader is that the leader doesn't have to swing on the front side to draw or get advantage. And then when you're awakened, you only get to swing with 20k criticals. So you're going to be trading for a super combo, if not more cards, 2 or more cards. So the bare minimum, you're at least getting a card out of the opponent's hand whenever you swing with your leader. And so it's very powerful. People definitely underrate that. So probably the best part of the card itself is that one singular effect, not necessarily the KOing something, but honestly, that 5k in critical is just absolutely disgusting. And so going over the deck itself, I'm playing 4 Android 17 Absorption Imminent, 4 Android 18, Android 17 and 18 Absorption Imminent. Of course, all 4. I was very simple. Android 17 is easily the best card in the deck. When you play it, look at the top 5 cards, add up to 1 green Android card among them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Probably the card that is the silent MVP of the whole entire archetype, because it makes sure everything works all together. But if I don't have this card in my opening hand, I feel like my games are dramatically different versus the games that I do. So seeing this card in your opener is incredibly important. Your 17, your 18 is just, again, solid cantrip at any point in the game. You really want it early in the game so you can help tuck it under your leader to, of course, get that advantage. But as the game goes on, you tend to favor this a little bit more than Android 17, just because that it just draws a raw card, which feels really good. So you have the chance to find, super combo, a dormant, a clones, or a card that you need to kind of get you out of a tough spot. And so you like to have these towards the later part of the game just to play them and tuck them so you can just get more leader activations on the backside. We're playing the full 4 of the 17 and 18 because they count as each other whenever you're doing your targets for your cell 1 drops. And then we're playing 7 cell 1 drops. We're playing the 4 of the one which triggers on auto when you KO one of your opponent's cards from your leader skill. You can play this card in rest mode, and then we're playing 3 of the ones that you can play if you have a unison in play and your opponent has no battle cards. You can play it in rest mode. There's also, a lot of times people will just hard cast these, including myself, and usually that's how I like to start off the game. So ideal turn progression for me is turn 1 Android 17, and then after that, turn 2, play your Vegito Unison, awaken, hard cast a cell 1 drop, go into your first evolve, which is your cell Dawn of Despair, to draw 2 cards. And then if you have the clones, which is the absolute, that turn feels so good when you get to go awaken on 2 on the play with Vegito Unison. You have your 4 drop that gets to be in active mode, and you have a clone just to negate and cut the opponent off completely. It feels so powerful. You feel pretty unbeatable in games where you set up like that. So yeah, hard casting these is completely viable. Playing 4 of the 4 drop, of course, It's the best card when you have Vegito Unison in play because it'll draw you 2 cards when you play it from the deck. We're playing 3 8-drops since it is tutorable from both deck and drop area. You could consider going down to 2, but there's a lot of times where your beatdown plan really relies on having that 3rd copy. And there's even merit to playing a 4th maybe in the board, but I'm just not there right now. We're playing 2 of the Perfect Force Cell to go along with 2 Wretched Regeneration, which, as everyone knows, this actually costs 5 to be able to activate, since you have to do the 1 plus the 4 on the activate main. So this lets you kind of put your opponent on the clock. The moment you tuck your Perfect Force Cell, a lot of tension gets created, because if you're going first, the whole entire game becomes around you just getting to turn 5 so you can deploy your Perfect Force Cell, and then knowing that they either can or can't doing something about it, whether they're playing blue or they're playing something else to try and stop the card. You have the advantage because you have the threat, whereas they have to have the answer. So I love this. It's just such a great way to force the opponent into weird positions, because they have to think about this throughout the entire course of the game once you put the Perfect Force Cell underneath your leader. So really love this card, really love the archetype in general, because you get this really nice mid-game pressure, and then you just kind of get to snowball that until your turn 5 and beyond, and your opponent really, their options are so limited. So definitely the strongest part of the archetype itself is just being able to have that 100% win condition towards the end of the game. Our negates 3 Dormant Potential Unleashed, the 4 Homicidal Clones. There are some cases where you could actually go down to 2 Dormant Potential Unleashed in the main. It just really depends on how aggressive the format is, but I know that we're in best of 1 pre-siding right now. 3 has felt really good for me, and then I can side out or in as needed, but 4 clones feels pretty much mandatory. So 4 clones is the call. Like I said, you go right to 5 life when the game starts, and being able to just clones to stop a turn completely feels really good. Or if your opponent's just like, let's say they're trying to just outright kill you, and you, even though your life's at 4, the fact that you can go clones, make a blocker, block, clones, make a blocker, block, just very strong defense. We're playing the 4 Vegito Unison, of course. It's going to be the best unison for the archetype since it draws so many cards. And then the -7 is something you activate a lot. Taking 3 cards out of your opponent's hand and then taking a life and putting it in their drop area. Just a very strong effect. The amount of secret rares I've nabbed with this, the amount of just super combos I've nabbed with this is pretty high. So again, card's incredible. Definitely the best unison for the archetype. 3 charismatic villain in the main. We have the 4th on the side. Again, card, it might not necessarily feel necessary. You could play 2 in the main and then play 2-sided or 2 in 1. But I really liked having 3 in the main because people play a lot of battle cards right now, and being able to answer them with just a singular card feels really good. Our super combos, I know there's going to be some controversy here. This is all personal preference. I like having Bionic Blitz as a tutorable super combo. I like that it's a really strong offensive super combo card. When you put this, Bionic Blitz on top of a cell that's coming in for 20k, you get to 30k, you force your opponent to bottom deck a card. That means they're going to have to exhaust even more resources to combo out of it, and it can be pretty demoralizing when you're like, okay, swing for 30, bottom deck a card, and their options are already fairly limited because you've been doing so much work with the critical hits from your leader. I really just like 2 Bionic Blitz, just for the fact that it's tutorable and for that offensive pressure. And then we're playing 2 Great Salmon super combo to go ahead and tuck those 4 drops back into our deck so we can tutor them out and get that full card draw off of the Vegito Unison. Probably the place where I get the absolute most spiciest is with these last 3 card slots. Kakunsa Beastly Maiden. Story about this is Universe 7 probably feels like your worst matchup because they have the ability to answer your cards really easily since they have a lot of minus effects. And so you are terrified of the Vegeta Secret Rare, and then you're terrified of the Goku 8-drop. Kakunsa answers both of them. If they opt to swing with either of those cards, you get to just tap 2 energy, counter negate the attack, play this, and you just get to kill that thing outright, which feels incredibly strong, and it really ties into what I call like the blowout potential of Kakunsa BC Maiden is really high, and that's one thing you're going to notice about as I describe some of the other card selections. That's actually something I really love about this deck itself, is that you're playing this really strong mid-range deck that has a really incredible top end with Perfect Force Cell on turn 5. So you're putting your opponents in this weird space where they have 5 turns to operate, and if at any point you blow them out with a Kakunsa Beastly Maiden or a different card, like you just in a lot of cases, you feel like you outright win. Like you just completely demoralize the opponent. You got everything you wanted. You got all the advantage. And then now you get to go back into your turn, whether it be turn 5 or beyond, and then just completely seal up the game. Whether that be with Vegito Unison and Perfect Cell, or just Vegito Unison that tear their hand apart, and then going to start attacking with your Atrops and various cards that you can swing with. So I love this. This was a Frisco Foz and Richard Zapp edition. I left the event wondering, I think I really just needed to be able to beat U7. And I never thought of this card, and they were both geniuses and thought of this, and this solves the problem so much. So Kakunsa Beasley made an incredible card. If you haven't picked up any copies, you might want to do so, because these are still relatively expensive, since they haven't been reprinted. And then my secret rare, honestly, probably the MVP of a lot of games and against a lot of decks is Majin Buu Kabuto Kai Absorbed. I know that Cell Zeno is tutorable. I know that Cell Zeno can be tucked and play with Wretched Regeneration. I know that you can play it off of, Successor 12 on turn 5, and it feels really good. But man, having this for just 2 energy at any point in the game, whether it be just for the defensive ability to be able to make it so your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the turn, or just being able to snipe a Unison when there's a lot of Unison-centric strategies, is just so strong. Being able to, like, let's say, your opponent's playing the green cooler deck and they're going in for game with their Frieza Unison because that's how they win, and then you just snipe their Unison from them. It's basically game over on the spot. If you're playing against the red decks and they have baby Unison, you can snipe that Unison from them and you get a baby Unison on your side. You basically ensure that they're never going to have a battle card stick for the rest of the game. And again, that's really game winning. Even if you just steal it on your turn, use it once, and then play another Vegito Unison, completely demoralizes the opponent. And again, this is just a 40k double striker that comes down on the board for 2 energy at any point in the game. And whether if you want the upside of stopping your opponent from attacking with battle cards, or the full upside of stealing their Unison, card has been absolutely absurd in all the games that I've played. So highly recommend playing a card like this. And I guess this is another one of those blowout potential cards. Your opponent, just whether if they're thinking about it or not, this is something that they're going to have to face at some point in the game. And if they're not prepared for it, then their whole entire game just falls apart, and then you easily just, steamroll into victory. So love the STR choice personally. I don't know if more people will adopt it, but I definitely wouldn't leave home without it. For the side deck, I'm doing a lot of odds and ends here, so filling out 4 Charismatic Villains, the 4th Dormant Potential Unleashed, the 3rd Kakunsa Beastly Maiden, bringing that in against U7, 1 copy of Golden Frieza Newfound Might. This is against any battle card based matchups, or additionally in against U7, more blowout potential, being able to use that counter attack effect. Anytime someone's trying to go wide, having this effect is just very strong. Vegeta Resolute Agent of Destruction. If you want to destroy anything with barrier or wide board states like Trunks Vegeta, they like to just pile up a lot of barrier people on board. Play this down, wipe their board clean, and then you have a really strong -5 to help close the game out. 2 Focus Breakthrough. Really like this against red decks with Videl counterplay, as well as the Vegeta Resolve Renewed. 2 Big Amor, Mirror, and U7. Blue Impulse, basically any battle card based deck that likes to play cards in your turn, like any yellow deck that plays Riposte, card's really strong against it. Launch, also really strong. And then 3 Deborah, whether this be for the Mirror or against Green Cooler, you might as well just play Deborah in your deck. So that is my version of Ultimate Deck Cell. I'll post a link down in the description so you can check it out, and then also get your get it uploaded to Untap so you can go from there. And the next deck, I haven't talked this much in so long. Doing 2 decks in a single video, it's a lot. The next deck is a little bit more simple and straightforward. It's just Agents of Destruction. Deck definitely hasn't been receiving as much hype as it should. And honestly, after the Bulma deck won, after Danny Wynn, props to him, incredible deck, and Mike, I know, worked with him on it, and that whole team went into making that deck so strong and successful. I knew that means that if the games are going that long and people are losing by deck out, and they're losing just by the fact that a deck is playing a lot of blockers, you have to try and reduce the amount of turns that decks like that get to have. And the best way to do that is through an aggressive strategy. If you look at the card pool right now, playing aggressive decks is really hard. outside of AOD. And so AOD is that premier aggressive strategy. And so I wanted to mess around with it. I wanted to put my own spin on it if I could. And so that's what I did. So the biggest thing about AOD right now is the fact that Android 13 counterplay is absurd against Videl, against Vegeta Resolve Renewed, against any card that your opponent's trying to play that you don't want them to, against any Floodgate, against Topo Righteous Aid. You just get to keep things off board, which is just really strong. And I know that Vegeta Resolve Renewed will get its effect and everything, but again, just keeping a threat off board is just really strong, and it costs 3 or less. And you can just recycle these at will with its own auto. So when it's played, you can shuffle up to a total of 2 Evil Wizard and/or cards with Agents of Destruction in their name, and you just shuffle them into your deck. So you can just keep recycling these, which feels pretty broken against Videl and Topo. So this card is definitely going to pick up some steam. I think more people are going to start to play OD, evidenced by the fact that Baby Janemba promos are spiking in price right now. They're $20 a piece for just the regular ones. But again, this card kind of brings a whole entire archetype around with providing you either that burst of card draw with offering or just getting the additional damage in. Unisons, we're just playing 3, 2 Boo, 1 AOD Vegeta main. Negates, we're only playing 2 Support of the Dark Empire, and then our 4 Garlic Jr. Garlic Jr. is just a ridiculous card. Playing with it, I haven't played with this deck in so long, and just playing with Garlic Jr. against people is really laughable. I was testing against Frisco, and then the amount of times I would just play this card offensively to just be able to get the body on board is just really gross. So, you just Garlic, get a Turles, and then even though it has its skills negated for the turn, you would still then just be able to get another swing in, or use it if your opponent has like a Floodgate effect on you or something. So that was just incredible to be able to do throughout the course of those games. And again, just a negate that just gives you 2 bodies on your side of the board going into your turn is just really strong. So definitely the linchpin for the entire deck, and what makes it so going wide on turn 2 and beyond is just super easy. And that was one thing I noticed that the Videl deck struggled against, was go wide strategies, because they really, basically once the Baby Unison comes down, you just completely ignore the Unison. You don't even care about it. They're only going to kill 1 of your things per turn with that card. That doesn't matter to you because you just get to rebuild your board so quickly. So you just ignore the unit and you just keep swinging 15k swings to the face throughout the course of the game, essentially until they run out of ways to defend themselves. And then you cut them off of their floodgates like Topo just through Android 13. So their options get really limited. It gets really complicated. I know that they'll be able to adjust in pre-sideboard games with new tech that they'll have to pick up and play so they can be able to beat this deck. But Agents definitely feels really well positioned right now against Bulma and in general. Having the good removal and card selection of Broly 3, having this defensive option with Bojack, Rampaging Agent of Destruction, Strong Negates, Time Patrol Trunks, weird. This was Richard Zapp's suggestion, but being able to peek at the top 2 and then set them up if you want to set up your Agents of Destruction and Strike Back feels really good. And then also just a 3 cost, Overwhelm is just simple. You could probably sub this out with the Trunks promo that's a 25k that draws a card on play, or just any other free Overwhelm that you like. I definitely prefer free Overwhelms for this deck because this deck really wants to use its energy on battle cards. But again, just a really strong card. Pan Time Patrol Maiden makes it so going for game in the early game is really easily, and then also can just be that floodgate that gets you to the end game. 1 Champa just to help us finish things off if we're having a hard time. And like I said, just a split of the Unisons. You could just go 3 Boo Unisons straight up and cut the Vegeta, but I just like having the Vegeta in the main just so you can, get to that point where, let's say your opponent's board is out of control, or you need to be able to get the game over with, and you want to reduce their resources. Vegeta 3, the Vegeta Unison is just really strong. So this deck is, again, definitely not as, there's not as much tech or anything. The deck is just great at just turning battle cards sideways and, just going to the face over and over again until your opponent can't do anything about it. And 15k swings feel really good. I know Bean is a very strong card, but Blue is not huge right now. I know Gamma is getting there, but, the fact that you just have a lot of 15k attackers that provide card advantage or virtual advantage is just really good. So overall, I definitely think that this deck is currently underplayed. It's probably going to pick up some stock here in the next few weeks. Like I said, with the market price on this Baby Janemba promo, it seems pretty evident that people are going to start picking this up and playing it. But ultimately, I think Android 13 Exterminating Agent of Destruction is the reason why you're playing the archetype right now. It just checks so many cards. If your opponent wants to play a Topo, any sort of battle card floodgate, you're going to be able to nab that, and they're going to have to discard a card. So again, card is absolutely absurd right now. But anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much. I've already been nearly 20 minutes talking about Dragon Ball Super decks, which I definitely missed it. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. Like I said, I'll have a link down in the description so you can check out the decks yourself. And then additionally, you can download them, get them on Untap, start playtesting, etc. But I definitely think these are two really strong decks right now. I know Cell's obvious, AOD probably obvious, but just in general, I think people should just play more games with them because they both just feel really good. In some cases, when you're on the play with either of them, you feel darn near unstoppable and unbeatable. So I hope people pick them up and play them more. Maybe these specific versions. Again, I don't think the AOD version's too flashy by any means. I just very much is just all about the beats all the time. But the Cell version, it's definitely like blowouts deck. So I hope people kind of mess around with that and just see the potential of that type of strategy. But anyways, I'm going to get back to life, getting married next week. Very excited about that. All the boys are coming in town for the wedding, so incredibly excited. Again, if you haven't checked out the game yet, Runes of Eve expandable card game, there's a Facebook page. I do content every single day. Demo decks, I have them available to purchase just to help subsidize the cost. But anyways, thanks for watching. Okay, thanks. Bye!